What's up guys, Dylan here from Veteran Aquatics, and today we're going to talk about what the best overall tank size and footprint is. Before we go ahead and get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You guys are killing it, and as always, I will see you in a minute. Alright, so best overall tank size. Now, the way I'm going to determine this is going to be based on a couple of things. One, based on footprint. So the footprint is the actual layout of the tank, not just the gallonage. The water volume, which is the amount of gallons. The price, so how cheap can you find it and how readily available is it. As well as its versatility in terms of what you can keep in it. Alright, so first I'm going to show you the tank sizes that I'm currently running, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the different pros and cons to each, and at the end we'll come together and I will decide which one I think is the best overall tank size. This is going to be more helpful for those of you that maybe have one tank and want to get another, or you have a small tank and you're looking to upgrade. Or if you're getting your first fish tank and you're not sure what size to go with. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So first, let's start with one that's really common, really readily available, and that you can oftentimes get for a really good price. So this is going to be a 55-gallon standard footprint tank. It's 48 inches long and 12 inches wide. The 12-inch width is what I think holds this tank back. But elsewise, the length of it is nice, the height of it is nice, and as you can see, I have a lot of really nice African peacock cichlids in here, and they're doing just fine. Now these guys will eventually, gain in size and need to be put in a bigger tank, and that's something I'm already well aware of and have a tank prepared for. So I think this tank is good for something like angelfish, a fish that gets a little bit taller. But not nearly as long. I think it's good for, any type of community fish, anything that you can keep in a 10, 20, 30, 40 gallon, for the most part, you can keep in a 55. So if you like, guppies and endlers and tetras, this is going to be an awesome tank. It gives you enough space to do a lot with it, but it's not so big and so hard to get and so expensive to buy that you run into any kind of problems. So I think a 55 is a pretty decent footprint, but it's not going to be my top one just for the width reason. Right. Next, so this is not going to be a commonly available one. This is a 90-gallon tall, and I utilize it for my angelfish. Since they're a taller fish, they appreciate the additional height. This one is 36 inches long, 36 inches tall, and 18 inches wide, which makes it a really great footprint for something like angelfish or discus. Again, I'm pretty sure this is the only one I've ever found, so this is not going to be one that you're probably going to be looking to get, but if you do see one, just know it's good for something like discus or angelfish. Below it, we have 3 10 gallons. These tanks are all used for endlers. So 10 gallons are nice for a first fish tank. But one thing you'll notice with the smaller tanks is they require more maintenance, they get dirty faster, you obviously cannot have nearly as large or as many fish in them. This one has quite a bit of plants, and the duckweed is absolutely going nuts. For small nano fish like these rainbow tiger endlers in here, this is a pretty good tank size, but they're reproducing so fast I would prefer to have them in something like a 20-gallon tall or a 20-gallon long. This is good for if you're going to keep like a single beta, or maybe just a couple of fish that stay very small. Celestial pearl danios is another good one. But overall, it's a little too small to do much with. It's not very versatile. On the ease of access, they're all over the place. You can get them real cheap. Wait for pkecos $1 per gallon sale. You get it for 10 bucks, brand new, out of the store. Super easy to filtrate, doesn't require a lot in terms of filtration or substrate. So ease and price, very great. Versatility, not so much. Footprint, not so much. Alright, next, we're going to move to a 125-gallon tank. So this is 6 feet long, 18 inches wide. They are a fairly standard sized aquarium. You can get them fairly readily, but when you start to get into the 6 foot long tanks, you start to get into the higher price tags. Now, tanks 30 gallons and under you can usually get at Petco for their $1 per gallon sale at $1 a gallon. These 125s, however, even used, you'll notice that they go for $1.50, $2, sometimes even $3 per gallon, especially if you're looking at an entire setup. I got a great deal on these. I got these two 125s and a 55 plus 2 canister filters for $300, but I had to drive 3 hours to get them. So you can hunt deals for these, and you can find them occasionally for a pretty good price. Most of the time you're going to end up spending somewhere between $200 to $300 for a single tank, with or without a stand. Alright? In terms of versatility, these tanks are great. You can house a lot of different fish in here. The only time you get limited is when you're talking about really, really big fish. So something like a dovine, arowana, pacu, red-tailed catfish, tiger shovelnose, some of those bigger monster type fish won't fit in here only because they get longer than 18 inches. Even a pair of jags, this is a little small for. They'll usually max out between 15 and 18 inches, but obviously more room is better, and especially for a pair of spawning jags, you're going to want as much room as possible, so for that I might recommend a 210 or a 220. But overall, this is one of my favorite tank sizes. The only hit it takes is in price, because they're expensive, even used, they're expensive, they're hard to move, and they take up a lot of space. That said, you can fit, you know, I'd say a good 65 to 70% of most commonly kept aquarium fish, if not more, inside of a 125, and that's what makes it such a great tank. So now we're going to move to a standard 29-gallon tank. So this tank is 3 feet long and 12 inches wide. It's pretty much a foot shorter 55-gallon. Alright, this is currently housing my juvenile Apistogramma cockatoides triple reds. Now, this is a good tank in that, as long as you're not keeping big fish, most smaller fish are very comfortable here. You can keep a pair of angelfish in here. They're readily available, they're not too expensive, they don't take up a ton of room. But that said, if you're looking to keep bigger fish, I would probably not go this way. But if you're keeping smaller fish, a 29-gallon is a really good tank size. If you're looking for a fry grow-out tank, a 29-gallon is a really good size. You can have multiple of them without taking up a ton of room. And again, easy to filter. Everything for it is readily available, and you can find them used pretty cheap. And these are also part of Petco's $1 per gallon sale, where you can get them for $1 a gallon. So the 29-gallon is pretty good. Definitely recommended for a first aquarium size. It's big enough to give you some room for error, but small enough so you're not taking up your whole living room for just one fish tank. The next size tank we're going to talk about is a 20-gallon long. So it's just as long as the 29-gallon, but it is significantly shorter, as you can see, thus the difference in the 9 gallons. Now, if I were to have to keep a tank that was under, 25 gallons, this would probably be my go-to. It's got nice length, it's got the foot width, and it's pretty versatile in terms of what you can keep because of the extra width. It gives you a little bit more than your standard 20-gallon would, and definitely a lot more than your standard 10-gallon would. Anything smaller, maybe, you could keep a pair of Apistos, you could keep a pair of rams, you could keep some bristlenose plecos, guppies, tetras, anything like that will happily live its life in a 20-gallon long. Now, these are more expensive than a standard 20-gallon tank is, and while they're not $1 per gallon at a $1 per gallon sale, they are 50% off, so you can still get them at a relatively decent price. You can find them used sometimes, but a lot of people like to hang on to these because they are a good footprint. Right, so this is another great tank. If you don't want a 29-gallon, I would definitely go for a 20 long. You won't be disappointed with the tank. Alright, next we have a standard 20-gallon aquarium. Alright, so it's about 20 inches long, a foot wide, and roughly 18 inches tall. So this is a good step up from a 10-gallon, and choosing between a 10 or 20, I will always go 20. Clearly, I keep quite a few of them. They're easily available. You can get them for $1 per gallon at Petco's $1 a gallon sale. You can find them easily and fairly commonly on like Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that if you're looking for used tanks. You can do pretty good keeping smaller fish in here. This is a great guppy tank. This is, you can do a couple bristlenose in here. You might even be able to get away with housing a pair of angelfish, although for that I would definitely recommend at least a 29 gallon, just for the extra length. But a good tank overall, and I keep a lot of them. They make great fry tanks, they make great, guppy tanks. You can see these are just all the mutt guppies that are in here. This is a pair of Bella Union Acara cichlids. And you can see here, I have a pair of angelfish in here. And they're doing just fine. Right, so overall it's a great tank footprint, and it's one that I like and I use very commonly. I just recently got the 20 longs. I've had them in the past, but 20 gallon talls were much more easily and readily available to me. So this is the bulk rack of the tank. These are for grow outs and things like that. Man, these koi guppies are looking real good. So 20 gallon tall, great tank. If you have to choose between this and a 10 gallon, I would say get this. If you have to choose between this or a 20 long, get the 20 long. So it's not set up, and it kind of just holds all of my extra fish junk. But this is a 75 gallon, so it's 4 feet long, just like a 55, but it's 18 inches wide, just like a 125. This is a great footprint for an aquarium if you are limited to a 4-foot aquarium, and every time I would recommend this over a 55. This is an older one. This is a steel frame slate bottom tank, and it's one that I have to restore before I can set it up. But once it's set up, it's going to look really nice, especially with the steel frame, and phenomenal footprint. This is when you can really start to keep some bigger cichlids. Because of that 18-inch width, it gives you a ton of flexibility, and that 4-foot length really helps out a ton. So you can start keeping bigger things like maybe a Texas cichlid. You can keep Jack Dempsey's, green terrors, stuff like that. So if you're looking into bigger cichlids, bigger American cichlids, I would recommend a 75 gallon at minimum for probably just even a pair. Only because these cichlids get territorial, and if you have a male and a female when they spawn, they can get real nasty. This is a pretty common tank size. It's one that's readily available. It's not part of the $1 per gallon sale, and it will cost you a little bit more, being, anything over 55 gallons generally starts to cost you a little bit more. So bear that in mind when looking for tank sizes. But I think overall a 75 gallon tank is a really good sized tank, and it's one that you can get the bang for your buck for and keep more species of fish than anything else that we've listed, barring the 125 so far. Now forgive me the glare, guys, but last but not least is a 40 breeder. So a 40 breeder is kind of a more specialty tank like the 20 gallon long is. So it's 3 feet long and 18 inches wide. That extra width gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of what you can keep. Easily house a pair of angelfish in here, maybe even a pair of discus, a couple of African cichlids, and you can keep some bigger stuff in here too. You could keep a Jack Dempsey in here, you could keep a green terror or two in here. It's a really good footprint. It's one that I like a lot. The only drawback is these tanks tend to be kind of expensive, and that generally happens with all of your 18-inch width tanks. Right, $1 per gallon sale, just like the 20 gallon long. They are not $1 a gallon, but they are 50% off, which generally puts this tank right around 50 bucks during a $1 per gallon sale. All right, this is a great footprint. It's one that I like a lot, and it's one that I definitely need to get more of. And I actually just picked up another one. It's in the other garage. Once I get the racks built the way I want them to, that's where they will go. Alright guys, so we talked about a lot of different tanks today, and I did my best to tell you what I think are the pros and cons for each tank in terms of, versatility, price, ease of availability, and size. So the top 3 tanks that I'm going to go with are going to be, and this is not in any particular order, and I'll tell you what the top tank is here in a moment, 40 breeder, a 125, and a 20 gallon long. So I love the 20 gallon long for smaller fish. It gives you more surface area to work with instead of using it for the height. A lot of the fish that you keep in a 20 gallon tank don't need the additional height, so the extra length is really helpful. And it's a very nice looking tank. It's one that can be aquascaped to look very nice. The 125 I love for its sheer size and the amount of fish you can keep in it, the size of the fish you can keep in it, and it's always really nice to have a big 6-foot long fish tank just staring back at you, you know, full of fish. It looks amazing. And the 40 breeder, of course, just like I just explained, it's got that really nice 18-inch width, which gives you a lot of versatility when it comes to what you can keep. $50 for a brand new one during a $1 per gallon sale isn't bad. They are readily available at Petco, and sometimes you can find them online. But kind of like a 20-gallon long, I've noticed people tend to hold on to their 40 breeders because they're such a nice footprint, and because they work out so well for so many different types of fish. So with all that said, the tank that I find to be the absolute best in terms of versatility, what it costs, how easily available it is the 40 breeder. And it's for all the reasons I mentioned above. You know, you can keep a flower horn in there for some of its life. You can keep some of the bigger cichlids in there for some of their lives. You can pair up some of the bigger cichlids in there. Makes a nice angelfish tank. You know, it's just so versatile because it's got that width that you really can start to keep some of the slightly bigger cichlids. I wouldn't put anything huge in it, you know, don't put jaguar cichlids, dovi, or the big pike cichlids in it, but you can keep decent sized cichlids in a 40 breeder. And like I said, at $50, that's not too bad of a price to pay. So I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope if you were looking to pick up a tank, or you were trying to decide what your next tank was, that this was something that helped you do so. So if it was, please let me know down below. Also, let me know what you think the greatest size tank is. Naturally, bigger is always better, but we have to look at it from multiple perspectives, and we have to look at it via multiple criteria so we can get an overall consensus of what it is. Not everybody needs or wants a 6-foot fish tank, so that's why, in my opinion, the 40 breeder truly is one of the greatest tank footprints and tank sizes that is readily available for you today. So that's it, guys. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, stay safe, stay happy. The world's kind of crazy right now, so protect your family, protect your friends, and keep yourself safe. That's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.